Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Mouse Hasu and I think was it Roxas Abver. I believe this was taken from a European server matchup. So here we have Abver spawning as the purple Zerg on the north side of the map. Meanwhile, we have Mouse Hasu spawning on the south side of Metalopolis at the 6 o'clock position as the yellow Protoss. So yellow Protoss versus purple Zerg over here at the 9 o'clock position. For some reason, I thought this was north-south for just a moment and got a little bit confused. Yes, this is a Zerg versus Protoss matchup, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking me to cast more of these games. I am looking for them, believe it or not, and every single time I see a Zerg versus Protoss, I do try to cast the game, as I know they are a little bit few and far between right now. I think more because there's not as many Protoss players out there. And now we see one Hasu able to get a sight of that Overlord there and able to see what exactly Abver is going to be at spawning over here at the 9 o'clock position. And also, a lot of people have recently been telling me that they're kind of tired of watching Terran win. All I gotta say to that is, if you ever check out my live stream, I can pretty much guarantee you that my Terran is pretty bad right now. I haven't played or I haven't actively been playing or laddering for a while, and it's just taking a toll on me. Anyways, back to the game. We now see Hasu wandering around on the inside of this base, and now he's doing a really good job of just making sure to not pick up those minerals. So what he's doing is he's making it so that it delays the mineral patch, because the drone thinks that that mineral is still currently being mined, and then the probe just transfers to another mineral patch. So a little bit of an interesting positioning there, as now Hasu wandering around with this one probe, able to see everything that he wants to see, sees that drones are still being produced, no spawning pool just quite yet. So this is a very aggressive economic play coming in from Abver. Abver is currently 16/16/18 and doesn't even have a spawning pool just quite yet, but there is an Overlord in the base, and the Overlord does know that there should be a cybernetics core coming in. And where is that cybernetics core? There's that cybernetics core as the assimilator is down, and he knows that he does not have to deal with a double gateway rush of zealots. That's why he's going more for a little bit of an economic game, currently sitting at 16/18 after getting that spawning pool and that extractor down. So he was at 18/18 at just a moment ago, and now we can see another hatchery about to come online in just a second, allowing him to mine from 16 mineral patches. Now back over here, Overlord still wandering around, as both sides pretty much just sitting in their base and not really revealing the strategies to their opponent so far. So the spawning pool is down. The spawning pool will have 1,000 hit points, and you can thank Blizzard for upping the hit points on the spawning pool, as it is not as easily sniped as it was before, as this Overlord now just wanders away, making sure that it doesn't take that much damage. There is a lot of energy on this Nexus, currently sitting at 37 now, as it is chrono boosting that warp gate research. Very, very critical to get that warp gate research, as essentially one chrono boost on that warp gate research allows for faster warp gate research, and then warp gate research, as opposed to traditionally training up units out of a gateway, is like being chrono boosted as well. I'll probably make a spreadsheet out of that at some point in time. So Abver now moving away with this one Overlord, as Zerglings are going to go ahead and try to test this front door. There is one Zealot sitting at this location now, and it should be held in that position to make sure that Zerglings are not going to be able to run by. That Zealot able to hold off a larger number of Zerglings as they come in a single file line. And as they come in a single file line, it's going to be very, very easy for Hasu to just hold off the swarm of Zerglings. And now those Zerglings unable to really do anything, as that probe able to mineral path through its own unit there and now make its way into this location. Back over here, you can see the Nexus not training up any probes. Actually, no, spoke too soon once again, as a sentry now moving over in order to try to shoo away that Zergling. There is one Zergling at the Zelnaga Watchtower now offering sight. Taking a look at the income, we should start to see a larger number of drones coming in from Abver in just a moment, as he's continuing to power drone. He laid down a creep tumor, so he will not be able to spawn larva for about another 40 game seconds or so, and that could hurt his production just a little bit, as now one Zealot able to take down that Zergling there, and now you see an army of Zealot sentry on the move. That is a lot of sentries, so that is going to be a lot of force field to try to disrupt any of that mining there. And now chrono boosting those additional warp gates. Are we going to get some additional units onto that low ground right back here? Yes, more sentries now being trained as a Nexus has been placed down. So very, very nice play coming in from Hasu. Hasu getting as many sentries as possible, and now moving out with the Zealot sentry army. One of the benefits of a Zealot Sentry army is you can take a look at the army size. It's only a 650 mineral army, but it's also a 700 gas army as well. So that is going to be very difficult in order for the Zerg player to stop. And now the Zerg may just simply try to walk up that ramp, now going after some of those Zealots. And now in comes that force field there. Roaches are now coming into play as well as those sentries now trying to focus down more of those units. Roaches unable to get into there, and nice force field blocking. So Hasu doing a great job on this fight. The spine crawlers are going to come online in just a moment, as drones are now coming in as well. So in comes some more force fields. Those sentries are now trying to pull back. Sentries do move relatively slowly as more sentries can drop down even more force fields and try to separate themselves even further. Those sentries now pulling back down to 500, down to 5 sentries now, and continuing to pull away. Those roaches, however, once they're off of creep, do not get that movement bonus, and those sentries are being forced to retreat all the way home. So I believe there are 2 sentries, 1 stalker now. Taking a look at the harvester count, it is now 31 to 29, so the damage was dealt, and that is what you need to do as a Protoss player against a power droning Zerg. You need to sacrifice your army units for his minerals and for his drones. Otherwise, he will just be able to power drone even further. He probably had about 40 to 45 harvesters at one point, and then had to pull many of them off the mineral patches in order to be able to survive that fight. We do have a lot of roaches now retreating back once again, and now we are getting a lot of stalkers. So more stalkers being placed down, and now also a robotics facility for Immortals. Immortals, a very strong counter towards those roaches, may also train up an observer or 2 and another Colossus as well. Level 1 weapons upgrade now being researched as well. Zealots will be able to start two-shotting any of those Zerglings as these units continue to train up more and more. So currently a queen sitting over here, not really doing much. We'll probably start to spawn more larvae as the game is moving on. So as a transition, we see roaches now being placed down. We are at tier 2, and now we are getting another evolution chamber. So perhaps he's going to try to go for mass roaches with those missile upgrades and those armor upgrades on those roaches. Roaches very, very strong once they get their armor upgrades, but with Immortals coming now, Immortals will be able to just blast through that armor very easily. Roaches now coming in. Perhaps you're going to try to walk up this ramp and test this front door. There are a couple photon cannons, and now chrono boosting that forge. So that forge should be able to complete that research in just a moment. Only about another 60 game seconds or so as those roaches now try to test the waters. Are those stalkers going to be able to chase after those roaches? Yes, stalkers do have a faster movement speed and a better range. So stalkers now chasing after those roaches. One roach will definitely get taken down. Will another roach get taken down as those very nicely turned around and now burrowed as well. So Abver researching that burrow early and will be able to start regenerating some of those units very, very easily. And once again, burrowing, and that burrow was just absolute critical play, allowing those roaches to regenerate their hit points at about 5 per second. And now also be able to deal some damage. And now going up to that high ground, going to take down that one pylon there. Roach range of 4, able to shoot up onto that high cliffs much more easily now, as we are also getting a Spire, one Overseer in the air. He does know that there are no observers nearby, as those roaches do have, although I believe the roaches, yes, do have that movement speed upgrade, but they cannot move through force fields. However, they can move underneath them. So if the roaches did try to burrow, they would go underneath those force fields and then pop up on the other side with even more life and more hit points. Overseer now trying to come back in. Perhaps they will do a contaminate onto one of those robotics facilities, and now getting a robotics facility, contaminating that one robotics facility, it will delay the production of that building by 30 game seconds. And now a pylon trying to be placed down just on the edge of creep. So Hasu once again on the move with a very large army of sentries and Immortals. No observer just quite yet, as those Immortals need to get into that front location and take down those spine crawlers. Finally clearing off many of those creep tumors, and this is going to be a very difficult fight. Roaches now coming in, and now in comes a force field there, so nicely done, as those roaches are not going to be able to get any additional reinforcements. So now just trying to fight back, trying to take down the rest of those spine crawlers, and now those roaches moving with the movement speed of 4, able to deal a lot of damage and fight back very effectively here, as those roaches are now starting to blast up onto that high ground. One roach trying to fight back against that last Immortal there. Immortal, so Roach is up on that high ground and on that low ground, but Hasu doing a great job continuing this fight. And 13 more Roaches are currently being trained, and that may be the saving grace as more drones are now coming off of that 10 o'clock expansion. Those drones do move a little bit more quickly, and since they do not move more quickly on creep, but they do move more quickly than Zealots. But the Roaches are now catching up to many of those Stalkers, and those Stalkers and Immortals are now getting picked apart. Once again, mass Roaches, simply a strong counter to the number of units. It doesn't matter that an Immortal counters a Roach. When you have that many Roaches, they are just going to just swarm and take down that one Colossus so easily there, as those units now being forced to retreat back. There was a Photon Cannon now coming in here, trying to clear out some of these pylons as well. Stalkers being forced to pull back, and another Immortal coming back online, trying to take down some of those pylons. Pylon now getting picked apart once again, as Hasu now focusing down some of those Overlords. Down it goes. And now Abver trying to rebuild this creep highway, and will be able to set down a creep tumor here as that creep was starting to recede. So nicely done. That creep will start to push back out, and perhaps some more additional creep will push back out here in just a moment. However, the Observer revealing that one creep tumor, and now even more Zealots being warped in. So Hasu really pressing his army advantage right now, or trying to press his army and his positioning advantage, as those Stalkers now going to get underneath many of those Overlords. Overlords going to get picked apart now as those Roaches and Hydralisks try to come in. Multiple creep tumors now being laid down on that high ground, so those creep tumors will start to spread out over there as those Roaches finally get in position and take down that last pylon. Hydralisks are upgraded 1-0 along with those Roaches, as they obviously share missile upgrades. And now an Overlord is still in the air. So Queen now coming in over here, going to start spawning larvae, trying to get even more drones in play. 36 drones coming in from Abver. Meanwhile, Hasu sitting on 48 probes. Yeah, and now in comes another Overseer there. Will the Overseer be able to start contaminating some additional units? I wonder if you see a warp gate as it's trying to warp in a Stalker, and can you contaminate it, and will it stop the production? In comes 2 additional Stalkers. Stalkers now trying to get underneath that one Overseer. Overseer does move fairly quickly, however, parking itself right over those Stalkers, and that was a horrible play there, as there are now a bunch of Overlords in the air just spawning creep. That creep allowing those Hydralisks to move at a much faster pace. However, this creep highway is nowhere near completed, as these creep tumors still need to be moved out. We do see Stalkers and Immortals coming out from over in this direction production-wise. Another Nexus, and now a Nidus network. Nidus network will be coming online in just a moment, and as that Nidus network completes, it will be able to cause and do multiple attacks at the same time against Hasu. Hasu may have a very, very difficult time trying to stop this Nidus network. However, he is getting double Colossus right now, so a 2 Colossus and the extended thermal lance range. It has not yet been researched. As soon as he gets that extended thermal lance range, Roaches and Hydralisks will have a very difficult time trying to fight back anywhere from 3 to 5 Colossi, as Colossi reach critical mass relatively easily, and they share a lot of splash damage. So Hydralisk now jumping into that Nidus network here, and where is that Nidus worm popping out? I do not see any Nidus worm currently being produced anywhere, as Overlords are still just spawning creep out across the map. We do see Colossus now coming in, and this may be a little bit of a difficult situation, as so many units are in that Nidus network and they are not popping out anytime soon. Though there is that Nidus worm there, however, the units are on the move here. More Hydralisks and level 2 missiles upgrade coming online. Colossus needs to come out in just a moment, or sorry, those Hydralisks need to come out in just a moment, and now Colossus may start running up, and now out come these Roaches. So Roaches and Hydralisks going to make a run into this location here. We do see Stalkers now trying to retreat, as they most likely heard the cry of that Nidus worm popping out, and out come these Roaches. Roaches trying to take down units over here. We should see a couple more force fields blocking the retreat of many of those units, being forced to fight in a situation where they do not want to. And now more Nidus and more Roaches going back into that Nidus worm. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Abver and Mouse Hasu here on Metalopolis.